Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. We are Court and Ob from Dandelion Branding, and welcome to EnvironMental Podcast.
Yeah, this is our podcast where we choose a topic about sustainability, and then we talk about it and we deep dive, investigate it over several weeks, and then we podcast about it.
Yeah, and then we podcast.
And then and we specifically talk about topics from the lens of social and environmental issues.
Yeah, hence the name, EnvironMental. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, we've been at it for quite some time. I don't even know when we officially started this particular podcast.
It's been more than a year, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe
We had a podcast
a year
prior to this, and then probably about a year.
I think it's been a year.
Yeah.
I think that we started I think that it's been a year. I think
that
we
sounds right.
October, November.
That does sound right. I don't remember exactly what we started with, but we've been sort of moving through this process of like every time we talk about a new topic, like the first one we chose, but gosh, I have to look back at it to remember what it was.
We interviewed someone about sustainable dyes, so we've kind of come full circle.
Oh, the first one was recycling.
That was the first month topic. But remember we had some like intro ones before that?
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I don't recall exactly. She was really cool. She had studied like different plant dyes and stuff and alternatives to traditional dyeing. That was very, very cool. I guess we kind of have come full circle because we've been investigating, the recycling industry, big agriculture, freaking
fossil fuels, sourcing, general sourcing, packaging we did, and we just finished freshwater.
Right. So yeah, we've been kind of moving through a lot of these super big topics, and they kind of all are super tied into the topic that we're going to be transitioning to now, which is
fast fashion.
Boom, fast fashion. Whoa.
Yes. This is something that I'm really interested in about because I feel like, we work with sustainable brands. We work in this industry. We are part of the like eco-conscious conversation all day, every day. But it's not something that I know enough about to speak on yet. And I also feel like there's a lot of like words happening around fast fashion and what it means, and not a lot of clarity there.
I think that last part is key. There's not a lot of clarity in fucking any of it.
No.
And that's how they've gotten away with it for so long, is just this rampant lack of transparency, which allows for companies to have like no accountability and just produce things in like the most terrible conditions, terrible quality products, sell them for incredibly cheap, and keep pushing them out a million times over. That paired with, people feeling like they need to keep up with the coolest, newest trends.
Which they're also manufacturing.
That feeling.
These same companies that are like building these like fast fashion and creating I can't think of the word, planned obsolescence. They're also like actively building in these trends and these like seasonal things.
Yeah.
And these micro seasons. I just learned about micro seasons
Okay, that's a term I'm unfamiliar with, but
I'm still unfamiliar with it. So that's something that I want to learn more about. I'm
micro
gonna write that down.
seasons.
Is
How
micro
even?
seasons, because it's the you know how you'll have like the fall sale in
Yeah, well,
fashion and
yeah,
stuff.
right, and that, yeah, clothes change
Clothes
year
change
round.
throughout the
Yeah,
season, but
yeah.
like with that in mind, the fashion industry has come up with these like micro seasons where something is trending or something is in, and then within weeks or days it's out. So I was reading that like they do that by making you feel like it's like a seasonal difference or the seasonal trend or something like that. I don't really understand the concept, but I think that it is a specifically fast fashion
Yeah.
marketing concept of
Oh,
like my
I mean, almost entirely. Yeah, it seems completely fabricated. It seems like the first one that comes to my mind for that is like, maybe like back to school clothes sales is like, that's such a big, heavy time where there's like so much advertising, so much emphasis put on like buying new clothes for school and
yeah,
stuff, but that's not actually tangible or like tangibly tied to a season per se.
right.
Um, but I'm, yeah, really interested to know what the heck that actually means.
Yeah.
But it seems entirely fabricated. Yeah, that seems like
Super, yeah. It's
not
like Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day micro season. Is that what it was? Micro season.
Micro seasons.
Huh.
It's just something I like read when I was trying to find actual data for this podcast, which there's a lot of something I found over and over again, because we don't just like pull a fact from somewhere and then repeat it. We find sources that give us really good facts when we share these, and like, you know, we're going to share information about the fashion industry. So let's find real information from real studies in the fashion industry. There fucking aren't any. Like, where this like they're the top, they're the number 2 polluting industry in the world. That
Mm-hmm.
that is a paraphrase from something that was compared to like it was like one specific thing paired uh from China or something 10 years ago. It's not, it was only about like water pollution. Like it it wasn't in comparison
Hmm.
with what's happening with the other industries in the world, but it's touted that way. And there's a
Okay.
ton of those like factoids
That are floating
that,
around in the world. People talk. Yeah.
yeah, that people just say because a lot of times you'll see it quoted from a big statistics company that you trust that does data, but they're quoting somebody else who's quoting somebody else who's quoting somebody else. And all of a sudden you end up with a bunch of like data companies just quoting each other, and nobody actually knows where that started or what the fact is that it came from.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get actual information. So that is like, we actually don't know what the footprint of fast fashion is.
I mean, it's, yeah. It's like, because it's a bunch of well, maybe not a bunch, there's probably only a concentrated few number of, like, of actual like manufacturers, but it's not a clear supply chain. Like, it gets very muddy very fast, and yeah, a lot of the information that like people and consumers have been wanting brands to put out there about like their sustainability reports, their traceability, all of that, their sourcing and stuff like that, that's just up to the brand to
Yeah.
create. Like,
Yeah.
there's no independent organization that is making sure that this stuff is true, that they're telling you the the truth.
Yeah. And even if there like was, okay, this brand is telling the truth, cool, but there are thousands of brands out there.
Mm-hmm.
There is nobody going to these like big manufacturer companies and being like, let's go to all of them and take notes about how ethical your workers are treated, or how much wastewater you produce, or how much water you actually use, or what chemicals are in your supply. That information doesn't exist anywhere. It's just not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really, yeah, it's an unfortunate reality that like they really have made this like an absolute fortune on just having the like most unclear supply chain ever.
Yep.
They're just completely exploiting the fact that like there is so much distance between, like physical distance between the consumers of like the, I guess the global north or the Western countries, and where these things are produced, typically in Southeast Asia. And
right.
yeah, it's just it's been operated in such an unethical way for so long that doing it in any other way seems like completely revolutionary.
It is completely
It
revolutionary.
is, yeah, because I mean, it's even for companies who are like trying to get, ethical sourcing and get folks who are, trustworthy and who you can work with from across the globe. Like it's really, really hard to find those connections with people who are being honest with how their manufacturing is run, or how like what their hiring practices are and things like that. So even
Yeah.
if you are doing your darndest as a brand owner here,
There, yeah.
you
What can
never, unless
it's
you
really
go
Yeah, you have
there.
to physically go.
Yeah.
Somebody that does a really good job of that is Anact.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brand that we've worked with they're incredible. Um, the the founder of Anact went where did she work before? She worked at Patagonia in
Yeah.
their like sustainability department. She helped develop that department. So she has really specific industry knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was building Anact, she used that knowledge in order to figure out, okay, I'm going to source from this place and go visit my supply chain, go try to figure out who's manufacturing, meet the people doing it. But that was challenging even for her, even for somebody that had been in the industry and knew what to do for years.
Yeah, she already spoke the language and like knew all
Yeah.
of the like the intricacies of textile manufacturing. But it was still, something that she really had to hunt down for years to
Yeah.
find like an actual source that was doing good work.
Yeah. It was really challenging. And I can't imagine being somebody that that doesn't have that industry knowledge, that really just wants to help solve this problem. Trying to break into that industry would be so hard. Who do you call? You can't pick up the phone and call them. Like, how do you even do that? I think I talked to another brand, Canon Cloth. They're much
Yeah.
smaller and they work with independent artisans. And that's a really good way to do it. That's another way. But it's been really challenging for them. And then communicating about it is another step that is really challenging. What's too much to communicate about your
Mm-hmm.
supply chain? What's too little? Um, are there pitfalls in your supply chain that like you don't even know about, right? It's impossible. So
It's,
hard.
yeah, I mean,
Hats off to folks doing the good work there.
it is a lot of work, and it all takes a lot of like upkeep and making sure that everybody who you are sourcing from, all of the companies that you have connections with, are constantly also working towards like making improvements, and like there has to be definitely some like shared goals and a lot of communication.
So
And
much.
that, yeah, it's a big ask, certainly for small business owners. So it's a yeah, it's not surprising that so many folks choose to just kind of go this easy route of like fast fashion, where you get something that if you're just a creative mind and you're a designer of something, you can get something made up
Yeah.
incredibly cheap and have
Yeah.
it within a couple
Fast.
days. Like it's,
Yeah.
yeah, like, and so yeah, it puts folks in a really tough position where you definitely have to be really grounded and rooted in your morals in order to not choose that super easy route.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is a really interesting one because I think sustainability is never the easy choice, really.
Yeah.
But particularly when it comes to fashion and like the clothes we wear, sustainability is actually the difficult choice. Oftentimes it's not easy because it's expensive, or it's not easy because there's a few extra steps, or you have to like have a bit more conversation. But when it comes to fashion, all the way through, whether you're just a consumer or you're a business owner, or even like you're just part of the supply chain and you want to ask questions about sustainability, it it's so non-transparent that it is very, very difficult to find good sourcing or just honesty.
Yeah, honesty.
People
Yeah,
just
yeah.
lie. People just lie.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately a lot of like marketing, a lot of just
So
greenwashing, and yeah, it is. And so much of it has come under fire recently, like I mean, which has been cool to see so many people who like, work within some of these companies that have access to this information are putting it out there, making it public. That a company maybe says one thing on their website but does something completely against that in practice. A recent one I saw was Coach bags. Have you heard about this? Did you see this?
no, please
Oh
dish.
my god. So I think it was on TikTok. It was where a worker was showing how when they have to, I guess when things kind of don't sell or something, in order to move inventory but not devalue the brand, they destroy their purses and then throw them away. So they like cut them with razors and then throw them away rather than donating them or reusing them in any way. But that went against almost entirely what it says on like their website, where they're like, oh, we are all about reusing. We are all about like, send us your bag and we'll fix it. We want you to keep this forever, kind of a thing. Like, we're all about sustainability. And it's like, oh, okay. But in practice, you're having your employees at like every mall ever slash and throw away your designer handbags so you don't devalue them.
Oh my God.
So that was a really big thing. That was maybe like 2 weeks ago or something. And then based on that, because that got so popular, the TikTok of this person talking about and showing these like torn up bags, I guess they said, oh, we're not going to do that anymore in our retail stores.
Yeah, because now they're going to have the retail stores send them back to the manufacturer and they're just going to do it there.
And they're going to do it there. Right. Yeah, no, that was my thought as well, was like, okay, well, what is your actual solution?
Maybe don't, I don't know, don't make so much.
Maybe don't make so much. Yeah, that could help.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough, it's a weird thing. Yeah, where I mean, Coach in particular it's like toes this weird line of like trying to be luxury, but it's also in every mall in America. So like they have
And
to
every
all,
airport. Yeah.
yeah, they're kind of all, so it's a weird, I don't know. Um, Anywho, that one had just popped into my mind because that was a very
Yeah.
real example that just happened in yeah, and thanks to someone who really like put like themselves on the
Yeah, that
line
would be
showing.
terrifying. That would be so terrifying. Good job,
Yeah,
you.
they were like digging through dumpsters and like pulling out trash bags that were just filled with these like designer handbags, but they had just been torn, like there's just, or not torn necessarily, but slashed with razors. Yeah, yeah,
Just thrown away. Thrown
yeah.
away.
And they do the same stuff at like, yeah, like with makeup at Ulta and likely Sephora too. I don't know as much there, but yeah, that's kind of like an industry standard. And that's just one side of it. That's not even like the manufacturing. That's just like the
Right.
shit, the retail shit that doesn't sell in order to keep their like things valued at a certain price, when it's all just
Right.
like fake. It's all just like a manufactured, it's
It's
like
not
a,
real.
I
But
don't,
that's the micro season thing, is that like they're not a Coach has like a classic handbag that they're not destroying because that classic handbag is the
mm-hmm,
one that you think of when you think of Coach, right? But then they have all of these other designery ones that are good for 3 months or whatever, and then they
mm-hmm.
slash them.
Yeah,
That's because it's like the end
yeah,
of the micro season. That's how
mm-hmm.
I kind of was understanding that.
Okay,
Like it's a literal planned obsolescence, like a time-based thing. Or yeah,
why? Like why?
I don't
I
know. Or like
like,
I think like Primark in particular has this, and I don't know, I've never seen a Primark in the US.
mm-mm.
But I actually am wearing pants from Primark right now, so I'll call myself out on that. When I first moved here, we were really broke because we were starting a business, and
Yeah.
I just immigrated to a new country, and I didn't have any clothes because they were all on a boat. So I like went to Primark and bought myself some pants. That was 4 years ago, but they ripped immediately. Like I'm not going to show you the crotch on my pants, but like,
Yeah, yeah,
but
we
I just, yeah, no, I just like fixed them, but they're
mm-hmm.
made to do that. They like these pants that you get from these like fast fashion companies, they're made to rip or break immediately when you get them.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they're just made in ways that are not reinforced. The materials are super cheap, and yeah, they're making so many so quickly that if they make a mistake and mess up the sewing on one, it's like you can't
Whatever.
stop.
Go,
Yeah, you
just
can't
go.
stop. There's no
Yeah.
fixing a little mistake. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And they like that company in particular, at the beginning of Corona, when everything was shut down, their factories were shut down, and all of the stores were shut down,
mhm,
and they refused. They had ordered like products
mm,
for their stores, and the workers finished them, and Primark refused to pay for them because nobody could buy them. So there was
yeah.
just like, and this happened. Primark, it wasn't just Primark. H&M got hit with this too, and like, sorry about your million billion dollar industry, but like, yeah, all of those people, all of their workers just
Yeah, I
get
thought that
paid.
was actually like completely insane because I'm like, where is the contract here? Like, if they contracted that manufacturer to do that many units, they're responsible for paying. Like, I don't understand how they got away with that. That seems like crazy. But I mean, I guess it's sort of like, okay, well, what's the alternative? What, the factory is gonna like sue them? Like, okay, that's
Right.
not, yeah, like, and I guess that they know that that's the,
Right.
they have the upper hand kind of constantly, and they can just
Yeah. We
put all of the pressure onto the factory and the manufacturer.
yeah, we kind of see this over and over again with multinational businesses. Like we saw it with the fossil fuel industries. They are based in the States or based somewhere, and then they have like a subsidiary somewhere else.
Mm,
They don't have to pay wages the same way. Or
mm-hmm.
like last in the last episode, we talked about the private defense companies.
Yeah.
They're these huge multinationals that have ties with uh, like big money and ties with
Mhm.
politics, and they just like don't have to pay in less developed countries for things if they don't feel like it.
Yeah, and because it's sort of across country lines, the legalities get blurrier for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think even like we experience that. We're an not kind of, we are fully an international company, and like I totally could see where things could get blurred in like contracts or payments or taxes or any of that.
Mhm.
We do a lot to make sure that we like do it right.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's possible.
I mean,
And we don't we're not like a big
we're
business, but
tiny. Yeah. Yeah.
but I can definitely see like the I can see the loopholes that
Yeah.
are possible as we're running it being, and I'm even like, wait, we don't like we don't have to pay taxes on money in our bank account because of the way our business is set up. That doesn't make any sense. Like but that's the rule.
Mm.
So that's yeah, that's how these massive multinational corporations are set up too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it, yeah, that was a really, really like, yeah, tragic story at the beginning of COVID when all
Oh,
of those fast fashion companies were just like, oh, we're
oh yeah.
not, yeah, you're gonna actually have all of this millions of dollars in debt now, and we're not gonna deal with that. Yeah, it is pretty riddled seemingly with just people who are making really unethical decisions. This whole fashion industry, it
Yeah.
seems like that's a pretty common denominator. Um, for something that like is all about individual human expression, it seems like it's like fashion should is, you know, the crux
Mhm.
of it. um the underbelly is that it doesn't give any shits about actual human beings, the
No.
people who are producing these clothes. Yeah, it's really just, it's a dirty business. Yeah. Yeah. We have a bunch of statistics here of just like how much they like some of these businesses pollute and all of that. It's wild.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, but like I don't know if I trust the
mhm,
statistics, like and it says that approximately 60% of all materials used by the fashion industry are made from plastic. And that's a statistic from 2019.
mhm,
How do we know that? We we don't know we don't know what is happening in the fashion industry. I guess you could say like if you take clothing, if you look at like, what is made up of clothing, what clothing is made up of, like you could take a pretty rough estimate.
mhm.
like that.
That might be how they do it, or maybe it's based on like imports and exports. But yeah, I think that that's a good point. Is that like, I mean, a lot of these statistics seemingly kind of all come from like one actual study, like the sources of all of these individual sites that have some information.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's a lot of words out there. There's a lot of words out there, but it just, yeah, it's really, yeah, it's hard to know. Yeah, how would that organization actually know? I mean, in terms of like how these factories and stuff are polluting the water, like that, I could see how there are ways where people could test things in the water, and that makes sense. But yeah, understanding all of the like the actual manufacturing process. So right, like, I mean, we know that, yeah, most of those clothes are polyester, which is comes from fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm. Right, but then you think about like, okay, what if it's cotton? Then like
Which is also bad if unless it's done
right,
appropriately.
right, like what is attributed to the fashion industry though? If you're talking about like carbon emissions, for instance, there's a statistic out there that says that the fashion industry is responsible for 8 to 10% of humanity's carbon emissions.
Mm-hmm.
That may or may not be true. That's like cited all over the place. Sorry. And it might not be true, but also where does that start and end? Does it
Mm-hmm.
count like cotton and the emissions of growing cotton? Does that count? Or is it just
It's
the
interesting.
manufacturing building? Is it the creation of the textile? Like at what point
The
of
transportation, yeah,
right
yeah.
the building, because buildings make a shitload of carbon emissions.
Mm-hmm.
um does that count? Like there are so many different supply chains that are connected with the fashion industry that it's really hard to nail down exactly what they're responsible for.
Right. Yeah, gosh, even the like emissions of the retail space in which this stuff is being sold, like the emission like of factories, yes, but yeah, the end and then end of life, like how things can be disposed of. We've got so
Right.
much sitting in landfills. That
Right.
is, yeah, there's how is that possibly calculated? That's including all of the
Yeah. Like
potential
just the
harm.
just the retail stores alone. How would you, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you can, but how many Primarks are there around the world? And what is their energy consumption like?
Mm-hmm.
Those stores have lights on 24 hours a day. There's one in Eindhoven. It's huge. It's 4 stories tall and there's lights on all day and night.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
warm when you go in there, and the doors are also always open.
Doors are
So,
always open, heater's always on, or air conditioning's always on,
right.
lights are always on. Yeah.
How like is that part of the calculation for the fashion industry
I
emissions?
would hope that it is, but I don't know if that's treated separately as
Right.
like I don't know. Yeah, I do that in the information as to how they're calculating all of the carbon emissions is
Nowhere.
not out there. Yeah.
No. And even like the most accepted one, which I think I read in Vox, uh, is really like maybe around 4 to 8% actually, but we don't fully know what was calculated in that or how it was made. Like there's a lot of independent companies out there trying to figure out these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is one industry that is so overlapping in how it touches every part of our lives, from the food industry all the way to the retail store, all the way to end of life in our landfills. So I'm not really sure what we're going to find out.
I'm interested, definitely. But yeah, that article is very, very cool. We can definitely put that in the description. It's a Vox article talking about the misinformation problem in the fashion industry.
It's a really cool, really good one.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of what we've been mentioning, of just like it's so unclear. So it goes like unnoticed. It's like not even, it's just brushed off or just ignored, because it can be, because there's no accountability. There's no,
it's also so big. It's so big that I think that like humans have a difficult time like understanding or trying to calculate the immensity of something like that.
Yeah.
I always think somebody else has done that, so I'll just like hunt it down. Which is kind of where I started when I was looking for information about this topic. And turns out that that's just not a thing in this industry. So I don't super know what we're going to find. I'd like to know information about the carbon emissions of retail spaces, because now you piqued my interest mentioning that. Because I know that buildings and the infrastructure that we have is a huge carbon emission.
Yeah.
And I also think that that's something that business owners can do something about. Like, if you have a retail space, how can you reduce the emissions there? That's my main question I have now, I guess.
I feel like I have a lot of questions. I don't even know where my question necessarily will be, but everything is just pretty unclear. We're working with a lot of like ranges of like, the fashion industry maybe produces like 80 billion pieces, or like maybe it's 150 billion. Like, that's almost double, man. Like what?
Right.
Like that. And to your point, it is very hard to conceptualize the immensity of this particular industry, because we've gone this far with no insight into what or just very little. I'm not going to say no insight, like very little information, very little actual, like, we don't really like, we can't really see it, it's never like,
right.
And maybe there is like I don't know, a documentary or something about this that I haven't
I'm
seen.
sure, but there's also like, it's so disconnected. Like the H&M manufacturer and the Primark manufacturer and the Forever 21 manufacturer, like all of these big fast fashion brands that we just know about. They aren't talking to each other. Their manufacturer, their like warehouses and manufacturing plants and shit, like they're actively not communicating. So
is that true, or is it all coming from like the same place? Like,
oh, I don't know. That's a good question. It seems like they wouldn't have the same one. I want to know that. I want
I
to know
don't
that.
know. Yeah. They don't own these places. Like they wouldn't take that responsibility on, I imagine. Like they're just have contracts with people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've definitely seen like, I mean, obviously, like when if you shop, if you look for clothes on like Amazon, you'll see them also those same clothes on like, every other fast fashion site. Like there, yeah, it is very common that you see the same item
Mm-hmm.
sold by multiple different kind of like retailers. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, there is an overlap. Um, I don't understand what that is though.
Yeah.
If just these big companies all come to, I mean, yeah, how many manufacturers even are there for these like fast fashion brands?
How do you get like this color, like rolls and rolls and rolls of this color, this material?
They dye
How
it.
is it, yeah, they dye it, but like the material has to come from somewhere. Like, how do you
Mhm.
get so much? It's grown and it's made and it like comes all together, but like who's actually
Mhm.
doing that? Are they separate process? I think they're separate
I would think that
processes.
that is separate. Yeah, the textile manufacturers and then the actual clothing manufacturers are different. Um, though likely tied, and one company might say that they have, they can do both things or something like that. Um, but yeah, I think that that's where a lot of the pitfalls are. Yeah, is that like the people who are making the actual clothes, like the issue there is probably more of like an ethical workers issue
Yeah.
rather than at the actual textile manufacturers, where they likely probably also have some ethical work issues. But that's really where a lot of the like pollutants happen. And
Yeah, I'd like to understand more about those two differences because the person
mhm,
sewing isn't the person like making string, making materials.
mm-mm,
So, yeah, because the person sewing, the people that are like making the actual clothing, their waste is mostly in extra fabric
mhm,
that doesn't get used,
mhm.
which is a whole other thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, textile waste, yeah. Um, yeah, so at that level, it seems like, yeah, the waste there is definitely different.
I think what we're going to need to do is go step by step through the like
How it's
through the
made.
process,
Yeah,
and maybe we that's how we should do it each for this one is like step by step how things get places and sort of
yeah,
like figure out what waste is there, what kind of pollutants are there, what kind of ethical treatment issues are there, how
yeah.
people make differences. I can't even think of a better way
I think that
to.
that makes total sense. Yeah, I really want to understand polyester and how it came to be the one and only fucking clothing material out there. And it was like, and it's so bad. It's so bad for our skin. It's so bad for our bodies. Like,
Yeah, I
and
feel like
yet
you
it's everywhere. I'm
react
covered in
to
it. This is even
polyester.
Patagonia, but this is, I mean, this certainly doesn't feel like just cotton. I don't know. But so I really want to know how is that textile created? Also, the process, yeah, cotton is incredibly resource heavy to produce.
Yeah, especially non-organic cotton.
Mm-hmm.
It's really bad. So like just choosing organic cotton cuts your waste and your like resource usage in half or something. it makes a really big difference.
Yeah. So that I think that makes sense. I'm really interested in kind of trying to understand what is the most sustainable textile. What is like, okay, if we can't, if oops, sorry, like if all of these fabrics, they all have a downside, of course. All things take resources to be made, but what's the least bad? You know, like,
I feel like it's like linen.
I've heard that it's linen. I don't know why though.
From what I understand, it's just because it's cheap to grow. Like it
What
grows fast. It grows.
what is it? What is the plant?
Oh my god, it's a seed.
Okay.
It's like I don't want to say. I think it's like, but it's a seed. It's like flax. It's like something that is very easy to grow.
World linen's main source for, I guess it's flax. Yeah, it's flax.
Oh,
I
I
did
was
not
right.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is like um yeah, it's something that just can grow in like any kind of environment. It is a weed, it does not care.
Yeah, this is interesting. Cultivating the crop is very expensive though. I don't know why, but flax.
Yeah. It grows
Fascinating.
really, really fast because it's probably expensive because there's only a little bit per like
It says it's labor intensive and it's difficult to spin. So yeah, it probably
that
doesn't.
makes sense because they're like skinny little bops. I accidentally grew a bunch of flax one year. Turns out I love it. It's beautiful. It was not a mistake. But but flaxseed, when you grind it up, it holds water really well. And I was living in California and I wanted to like hold water in the soil because I was amending some soil. And I thought, oh, flax will be great. But my dumb ass forgot to grind the seeds before I threw them in the backyard.
Mm,
So flax is
a
beautiful.
lot of flax.
Full of flax.
How interesting. But yeah, so even I mean, that is what I've heard is like a sustainable option
Linen.
for sure. But yeah, I don't understand the process of making linen from flaxseed. That's really cool. And then that's, versus like we already have a ton of textiles on the planet. Can we be
Right.
reusing things? Can we be remaking
Yeah.
things? I
Can
don't
we
know.
be creating it out of materials that like are weeds that are just growing or other like
Other
like
plants, yeah.
out of other plants that aren't that we're getting rid of anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like hemp, I think is really sustainable. It grows so fast and it's so big and that is actually really easy to turn into cord.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's great. It's super durable.
It's very durable. Yeah. Right. Is the issue with hemp like a DEA issue? Is that like a remnants of like
Right.
of a time when that was really stigmatized? And is that, also like, so not every country can sell like or can grow hemp? I don't know the legalities there. But yeah,
I
that's
mean, I feel
another.
like that's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
But what sucks is that like hemp doesn't even grow weed.
I mean, people are, yeah, that's not, yeah.
I know. That's
It
besides the
looks
point.
like it's bad. Yeah, it's a big, 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 big topic that we are about to dive into, but I'm really interested because I think that we'll have some like really tangible solutions in a way that like what like our freshwater topic didn't
Such
really
a
have
bummer.
those. Yeah.
Oh, Yeah,
Didn't really
writing
have
up that investigative article was so after each of these topics, we write up an investigative article that shares what we've learned and that shares all of the links to these podcasts and just gives sustainable businesses like this is how you can help have an impact. The freshwater one was rough because there's not a lot.
Not a lot aside from the things that like, yeah, no, that we kind of already have been taught, yeah, your water usage does matter. Don't like keep your water faucet running all day. But yeah, there's some bigger players in that game that that we have like no connection with and can't control. And like it's not a consumer issue for sure.
It's not a consumer issue. This one, however,
Entirely.
starts at the industry level and goes to the consumer level. So this is one that I think that we will have a lot of solutions for.
Yeah, because it's not like a necessity for life. Like we can't tell people like, everyone needs water and like, so but our individual usage is nothing in comparison to like the chemical companies or weapons manufacturers. And but we have power with how we consume fashion, like a ton of power. And so I'm really excited for this one.
Same. I think it's going to be it may be frustrating because we don't have the data that we want, but it will be a breath of fresh air in terms of like, I have a real solution for you today.
So maybe the numbers won't be perfect, but like we'll get the gist of it. That'd be sure. Yeah, it's cool. So stay tuned. Yes, definitely subscribe to our channel if you want to stay up to date on all the things that we are learning and talking about. Thank you guys so much for joining and see you next time. Bye.